Hello! In July 2025, I took my IELTS test, and before that, I was really curious about the experience itself, and I was trying to find the videos about this, but I couldn't find many. So I am making one now because I know that many people who are taking the IELTS test or are going to take it really need this understanding of what the test and the test day is like. So let's get started. I had to travel abroad to take the IELTS test, and it meant that I arrived 3 days before the test itself. I also had a team meeting at Clear Skies Foundation late that evening. The next day I practiced my IELTS skills on mock tests, and also I took a walk around the city and found my test center, which actually was two places. So it was one for the speaking section and one for listening, reading and writing sections. Also, I bought food for the following day so that I don't have to do it on the test day. Before sleep, I made a plan for the test day so that I can be as focused as possible and not make a lot of unrelated decisions. I also looked at the uplifting pictures I had been saving because it is something that really gives me faith, and it is something that, before the test I was really worried, and those pictures were just making it easier for me. So I would really recommend doing the same. On the test day, I woke up at 5 a.m. I listened to some music. I was just mentally preparing myself. Then at 6:50 I started getting ready. I made a little breakfast. I only ate peaches because I wasn't hungry, probably because I was quite stressed, and I also wanted to make my meal as light as possible. At 7:45 I went out and I was strolling through the streets. It was a very beautiful morning, and I was listening to music as I was going to the test, and it was a very great atmosphere, and I would really recommend listening to something uplifting and something that would inspire you, because it is such a hard day, and honestly listening to something lighter really makes it easier. I arrived to the test center and I was the first student there. I had to wait for some time because I arrived in advance on purpose so that I am not late. Then a few other examinees arrived and it was getting more and more stressful. We took a photo. I had to leave some of my possessions there. Also, they gave me the paper with my student number or something like that. The staff was really nice and friendly, so it really made this experience a lot better. At 8:20 I was invited to the room with the examiner, so it is a closed room. Even though I arrived early, I could not see the examiner out of this room, so even though I wanted to guess who it was, I couldn't really. So I think it will be the same way for you, especially if you're not taking the test early in the morning. My objective for speaking was to be confident, not to be very tense, because it is something that always makes my speech a lot worse. Also, I wanted to show that I am quite knowledgeable, that I can operate those topics quite well, and I wanted to show the range of my vocabulary, so it was my objective. During the speaking test, I was feeling really well because I knew I was responding in the right way, and I knew that the preparation I had been taking was, paying off, and the examiner was also very nice and she was smiling. But nevertheless, while I was going home from the speaking test, I was quite nervous and I was so stressed I couldn't even eat properly, so I only ate a few spoons of hummus and hazelnuts, which is really little. My next section was booked for around 1:30 p.m., so just in a few hours after the speaking test I was already, heading to the test center again. Before the test began, we had been given a lot of instructions and quite a lot of warnings against cheating, and then we were invited into the room with all of the computers because I was taking the computer-based test. When everyone was ready, the test began, and still the test itself contained some instructions, so there's some extra time. Then there was the listening part. It lasted for around 30 minutes or so, and my goal was to focus and listen carefully. Then there was the reading part, and it lasted for 1 hour, and I'm pretty sure that every single test has this 1 hour limit. And my goal was to listen attentively and quickly, answer the questions correctly, and have some time to redo and check my answers. During the reading part, I used the strategy that I described in my last IELTS related video, so I would really recommend checking this out. Throughout the test, I would be sipping some water because it was summer and it was quite hot. I also have to say that between the parts, so let's say between listening and reading, you will have some time to sip some water or breathe a little bit, because you actually have to start the next test manually, so you have some freedom in this regard. The last part was the writing part, and my strategy for this was to first read the question, then think about my ideas, then about the structures, then vocabulary, and only then grammar. And I think this is a very great strategy, and you should definitely implement this during your test. And the writing part lasted for 1 hour as well. After the test was over, I left the test center at around 4 p.m. so it is quite lengthy, especially because of those extra instructions. So you actually have to be ready to remain at the test center for longer than the actual test itself. And then I went to a very nice vegan restaurant with my mom, and it was a very great way to wind down, especially since I hadn't eaten much. And after this, I went back home and I actually was just resting, and the evening after my test we also went for a walk, which was also very nice and calming and grounding. So this was pretty much it. If you have any questions about the test, I would be really happy to answer them, and I wish you the best during your test, because I know how important the IELTS test might be. So thank you for watching. Bye!